Well, I'm Joseph Ernest Martin, and I've been a working psychic now for a little over 20 years. I created the Quest Tarot and the book The Compass, which is a guide to the Quest Tarot, which won Best New Age Interactive Product of the Year, as well as myself the Visionary Award of Excellence for creating it. I did all the artwork, wrote the book. A psychic is simply a person who's practiced being sensitive to the energies that we're all exposed to and practiced at interpreting those energies. Well, actually kind of reluctantly, really. I was having psychic experiences when I was younger. Precognition episodes and flashes and feelings and even sounds and seeing things. But I really pushed them away a lot. It was more like I wanted to have fun. I didn't want to be psychic. My grandmother was psychic and a healer, really more of a healer than psychic stuff. She would have people over to the house. She would work on them, and they would walk away with real physical benefits. She would also say who was going to walk by the house or who was going to call on the phone, and that would happen too. So I really saw her as gifted, but I just didn't pay attention to anybody else. It wasn't until much later that things happened in my life where I opened up psychically and then started really practicing. This was in Chico, California, which is my hometown, and I was driving on East Avenue. I was going to go get gasoline at a gas station. And so on the right was McDonald's, and on the left is the gas station. And I'm in the turn lane, and I'm waiting for the arrow to turn green so I can turn. Well, the arrow flips to green, and I heard a voice in my car, and it was so clear. It was like, it was just like you hear my voice now. It wasn't in my head or in a thought. It was like a real voice in my car, and it said, "He doesn't see you." And so I look up, and approaching the intersection is a fully loaded lumber truck with big logs in it. Well, of course, people behind me, they're honking because they want me to turn, and I'm thinking, I ain't moving, you can't make me. Well, the lumber truck actually ran the intersection. And when the trucker drove through, he actually was looking straight at me as he drove through, of course, I'm sure thinking, please don't turn. Well, after he went through the intersection, I turned left into the gas station, and I had this overwhelming sense of peace beyond any experience I've ever had in my life, beyond any feeling I'd ever had in my entire life. It was so profound, all I could figure was like, for a moment, I was able to touch the hemskirt of heaven. And if heaven's anything like that, I gotta tell you, I'm ready to go anytime. It was so beautiful and complete and encompassing. After that experience, I had moved to Oakland, and I was at a lecture with Dee Bush talking about her work with Dr. Raymond Moody and the Mantian Project. And so I was watching her talk, and behind her appeared a ball of harvest gold light. Well, I'm looking at her, but I can see in my peripheral vision this ball of light. So all this, after a few minutes, I look at it directly, it disappeared. And I did, I think, what most people would do. I thought, well, my eyes are tired, it's been a long day, maybe there's something reflective on her back, trying to rationalize what I just saw. So I relax, and I look at her again, and now the ball of light appears, but it's over the other shoulder. So I just keep staring at her thinking, how long is this ball of light going to stay there? Well, after a few minutes went by, it just stayed there, and then I looked at it directly and it disappeared. Now I'm really excited. It's like, I saw something. I really saw something. So I went and I talked to her after her talk, and I said, Dee, I saw this and I saw that. And I'm just really excited because when you turned around, there was nothing reflective on your clothing. There weren't any incandescent light sources in the room to give a harvest yellow cast. They were all fluorescent, which is blue cast. And she said, "Oh, honey, Psychics see ball of lights around me all the time. She goes, I've even seen balls of light when I've been doing my talks sometimes. She goes, this is very common. Spirits come all the time when I'm speaking. Well, for about 2 weeks, I was just like so excited. I was like dancing down the street. You know, I really saw something. And then I got afraid. That's really the truth. I thought, maybe I had an aneurysm. Maybe I'm going blind. There's something wrong with my eyes. Maybe there's something physically wrong that this was an indicator for. So I went to see the doctor, you know, and the doctor said, you're fine, you know, there's nothing wrong with you, you know. So I thought, I've got to start figuring out what this is, what this opening I've had is and means, and what I'm seeing and feeling. Well, my readings shot way up in accuracy after that event, and I started seeing not only balls of light, but I started seeing what I call entities, which take different forms. I started seeing flashes. I started seeing auras. I started seeing spirits. I started hearing messages from my guides, more so in my head than audibly, like in that car event. That was very audible. But mostly they talk inside my head, and now I'm able to tell the difference between their voice and my voice. Well, for people who aren't practiced, it sounds like you talking to you. It sounds like, you know, the conversation you have in your own head normally, right? However, a way to start discerning the difference between your voice and your guide's voice is the guide's voice will have an element of surprise in it, right? So like you're driving down the freeway and you hear, turn here. And then, you know, you argue in your mind, right? You go, turn here, where did that come from? Why am I telling myself to turn here? I'm not thinking about turning here. That element of surprise is the first way to start recognizing the difference between a guide voice and your voice. When you get practiced at discerning the difference, then they'll talk to you in ways that are very plain. You know, it's not like in the movies where, you know, everything's a revelation and, you know, a big explosion and all that. Mostly. A spirit can be a ghost, someone who's crossed over but still attached to the earth plane for some reason. It appears as though the energy exchange between the nerve cells in the brain may actually be quantum energy, not mundane electrical energy, which is what most of our body runs on. I believe we don't have a soulmate, we have soulmates. There's more than one lid for our jar in this lifetime. Well, an entity can be, I think, anything that has consciousness but exists as energy. Well, because I think in the ethereal plane, animals are very conscious. They're very in the now. They do not have a big concept of past or future. They are very sensitive. Most animals see auras and energy all the time. And for me, it works the same way. It really kind of is they pull pictures from my life and experience that I can relate to. And then I know I'm supposed to interpret those for the person I'm reading for. They don't always give me complete information. I'd love it if they did. God, it would make it so much easier.